Hi, everyone. My name is Samantha Svensson.
I'm Sam Herman.
And I'm Solveig Lundberg, and we did a research project on using pollinator toolkits in urban green spaces to address local environmental justice concerns.
So for the introduction here, this project stemmed from our mutual interests on the topic of environmental justice, either from previous research or classes we've taken at Concordia. And environmental justice is just the intertwining of the environmental and social spheres. It describes how for some social groups, namely white and upper class groups, the environment is a source of prosperity and health, often at the expense of other social groups. For these other groups, the environment is a source of risks to public health, and these groups often lack access to the same environmental resources and green spaces. A justice issue stemming from environmental justice that's pertinent to American cities is known as redlining, which describes large patterns of housing discrimination that segregated people of color and low-income people to certain neighborhoods of American cities. Neighborhoods were subsequently placed by housing associations into one of four categories from A to D based on the prevalence of people of color living there. Areas with higher prevalence were deemed as having higher financial risk and lower desirability and were given the grade D designation and colored red on maps of the cities. Locally, the issue of redlining was discovered in Fargo recently. Um, um, Evidence showed that certain lots could not be legally sold to Black families in Fargo. Because of redlining, the people living in these inner city neighborhoods with more concrete asphalt and higher traffic roads place these groups at greater risk of cancer, asthma, and other negative health issues, as well as exposure to heat and air pollution. An additional positive correlation, which became the core subject of our research, is that of redlined areas and the environmental justice issue of access to urban green space. We hypothesize that the Fargo-Moorhead community on the border between North Dakota and Minnesota currently lacks abundant green space and has the potential for many new spaces which can double as pollinator-rich areas. These spaces, if attentively placed in low-income areas or communities of color, and areas already lacking in green spaces, offer unique benefits in which they can serve as key conservation areas for pollinator species and offer public health benefits.
Okay, so for our materials and methods, we wanted to create a geographic information systems map, which is also known as a GIS map, to represent these environmental issues that Sam just discussed. And we will see them later on in the presentation, but they are the correlation between race, income, poverty, and unemployment, and then these attributes and how they correlate with green spaces. Environmental justice is inherently a spatial issue concerning the relationship between distribution of people and environmental risk. And GIS is a great tool in managing, analyzing, and displaying these issues. Secondly, we use the Pollinator Toolkit that was created at Concordia College in the fall of 2018 by students in Dr. Foster's environmental politics class. The toolkit consists of a guide to the toolkit, a pollinator list along with their habitats, a list of seeds to select from, information about the habitats that make up the Fargo-Moorhead area and what pollinators roam this area, a native plant list, helpful resources, and answers to frequently asked questions. Also with each toolkit, there's a set of trading cards of pollinators in there so people can play a little game with their trading cards. Thirdly, we establish a connection with local businesses and organizations in the community in order to implement the Pollinator Toolkit with a wide variety of members in the community. One of these community members that we established a connection with was Fraser LTD, which is a youth shelter in Fargo, North Dakota. And we have planned a planting day with them in May where we will go and plant the Pollinator Toolkit into 3 separate garden boxes. So not only will we be planting the toolkit, but we'll also be teaching the youth how to maintain and sustain their pollinator garden.
Thank you, Mantha. We also partnered with Noelle Hardin, who owns and operates the Red River Valley Rabbitry in Moorhead. She turned us on to additional resources and other community organizations and local entities to collaborate with. She also helped us facilitate community education of the Pollinator Toolkit and of our project in general. So shown here are a couple examples of the maps we created using GIS mapping software. The map on the left shows what we deemed areas with limited access to green space in Fargo. And then on the other side of the river, on the right side of your screen, is a map showing the areas with limited access to green space in Moorhead. Basically what we did was we mapped all the things we considered green spaces, such as public parks, public cemeteries, and then the Red River Green Corridor, which is the areas, the areas 100 feet on either side of the Red River. Then we mapped all residential parcels in each city, and we excluded the parcels within 300 meters or a 5-minute walking distance of any urban green space. The areas shown in red were what was left over after we excluded these areas, and these areas are what we deemed as not having equitable access to urban green space. In other words, they were outside of a 5-minute walk or 300 meters from any urban green space. And these are the areas of concern, which we think are good areas for consideration when creating new urban green spaces.
This map shows unemployment rates within the Fargo-Moorhead community, and on top of that, the map for areas of green areas concern is on top of it. And so I'm just kind of going to go over the key here so we have a basic understanding of how to read the map. So each dot represents a number of people. So on the Fargo side of the Red River, 1 dot equals 40 people, and on the Moorhead side of the Red River, 1 dot equals 500 people. So this map shows unemployment rate. So the lighter blue, the lighter beige color represents, on the Moorhead side, 1.2% or less of that area would have a low unemployment rate. And on the Moorhead side, we can see circled in black, there is a dark area that would be equal to 9% or less that is unemployed. This map shows the same part of the areas for concern in the green spaces, and it just has a different filter on it. Rather than unemployment, it's the poverty rate within the Fargo-Moorhead community. So here we can see again kind of an area of concern on the Moorhead side of the Red River, where it's kind of a dark blue color. So that would be 39.3% or less of that area is in poverty. And again, this one is the same map, just with a different filter. So it's median household income rather than poverty or the unemployment rate. And on this map, on the Moorhead side, the green square is a little bit darker, but it's not as nearly as bad as the other examples. And this map will be eventually interactive and available to the public, so you can zoom in and zoom out and select different filters as you would like. So a goal of our project is to show that environmental justice is not only an issue on a large scale around the world, but it's also a local issue that is happening within our communities. Increasing the amount of green spaces in areas of environmental justice concern is often much cheaper and can put to use obsolete or remnant urban land. With the educational tools like the Pollinator Toolkit and the interactive GIS maps, green spaces can be created and maintained within our community. Having available green spaces to members of the public can help physical and mental health, which has become very vital as the global pandemic we all know as COVID-19 continues. Fargo-Moorhead has the opportunity to become an example of how local government can address environmental justice and climate concerns. Knowledge we have about pollinators and pollinator-friendly plants are a great link to the relationship between humans and nature. Illuminating the environmental justice issues that exist in our own community can further our own understanding of environmental justice concerns on a state, global, and international scale. We would also like to thank Dr. Sweatman and Dr. Foster for all the help and advice that they've given to us while we've been working on this project. We would also like to thank the Concordia College Environmental Studies and Biology departments. Thank you all so much for watching.